So there are a couple of disclaimers I want to get out of the way before we get into the review proper. Making a show is tough. Making a series is even harder. Making a series with a decade plus of interconnected movies, that is probably insane. There's also the realities of production, getting schedules to line up with thousands of people. It's really tough. And I don't want to sit here and pretend like if I was handed the keys to the castle, I would do any better. The MCU has made about $25 billion. So whatever I say during this review, again, praise or criticism, it's really not going to budge the needle either way. That $25 billion does not give a flying fuck about what a bunch of forum nerds think about power scaling. I can only imagine how a conversation with a Disney exec at Marvel would go. Oh, you know what, Lai Hengshi? We're so sorry we were busy making billions of fucking dollars. How should we do it to make you happy? You know what? Let's start all over. Let's give all the money back to the people that spent their money on this franchise. Let's start all over because apparently it wasn't good enough for you. So yeah, you should tell us, Mr. Non-Billionaire, Mr. Non-Franchise Creator, how should we do it? How should we start over and do it again to make you fucking happy? I would imagine that's how it would go. So yeah. The animation and art teams in this show killed it. Like, the style that they agreed on to go forward with this show, it was fucking incredible. It really reminds me of art come to life. Also reminds me of another show that I recently came across called Arcane. Apparently it's based in the League of Legends universe. I just want to mention that because both of these shows look fucking like art come to life, and I love the styles here. The music team also really killed it. There's not one time I skipped the intro for this show. For some reason, when I hear this music, I imagine Kevin Feige's face traveling through the multiverse. And this is what DC writers have nightmares of as they try to establish their shitty DC universe. Episode 1. What if Captain Carter were the first Avenger? I've tried to think of a few analogies to explain my feelings towards some of these what if episodes, and the best one I've been able to come up with is that I wanted these what if episodes to be, oh, you know what? The MCU is usually Coke and I'm looking for Sprite. And this first episode is like, instead of Sprite or some other crazy flavor, we got Pepsi. Like, it just was very samey. It was like, all right, well, what if Captain America was a woman? That's awesome for like diversity's sake. But as far as like the whole Coke and Sprite dynamic, it was kind of a letdown. I do want to point out, and I don't know what this says about me, any kind of mental problems I may have, but this action sequence right here, it made me cry. I don't know why. It's not the best action sequence I've ever seen. I'll be honest with you. I was crying during it. And I don't know why. The fact that the Red Skull summoned this extra dimensional being and it immediately killed him, that was kind of funny. A question I asked myself during this scene is if Captain Carter is as strong as absorbing hundreds of years worth of demons, because she pushes this extra dimensional being back. That's going to make more sense when we get to the Doctor Strange recap, but yeah, here we go. But yeah, the episode just seemed kind of like, it just seemed MCU samey. I wasn't really that impressed. Episode 2, what if T'Challa became Star-Lord? This was a expecting a Sprite but got Pepsi situation. So Peter Quill in the main MCU, he's this likable, charismatic guy that runs around with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and T'Challa is basically that but has more honor. So it's like, ooh, like don't push the envelope too hard, guys. One problem I had is when T'Challa got picked up by the Ravagers. They already established that T'Challa is from a loving family that brought him up right, that raised him right. He definitely would have let his fucking parents know where he was going. Like the fact that he just bounced off of Earth to roam the galaxy and didn't tell his fucking parents, like that is some bullshit, man. He definitely would have let his parents know. I don't want to hear any different. Like, oh, I'm going to go throw a stick and walk outside the city and, oh, spaceship. I'm not going to tell my parents. Like, yeah, get the fuck out of here. He would have told his parents. The Collector scene, when T'Challa was fighting the Collector here, I mean, keep in mind that the Collector basically gets defeated by an athletic guy, despite all his advantages. And really, this was the highlight of the episode for me, is seeing the little Easter eggs in the Collector scene, implying that the Collector, defeated these characters like Captain America's shield and Hela. But again, he still has problems with some athletic guy, which is T'Challa. Like, it was a cool scene, but it was also bullshit at the same time. All in all, the episode was, it was Pepsi. It was Pepsi. Episode 3, What If the World Lost Its Mightiest Heroes? This was actually kind of cool. This is the first case in the series where the What If series delivered upon like an actual twist instead of like some MCU sameness. Like, I actually did not see the antagonist coming. I was wondering, what was going on during the whole episode. I really felt like everything was heading towards a fuck situation. I was like, wow, who is killing all these Avengers? I don't see them getting out of this. Like, whoever's doing this is ruthless. This also shows how, like, a smart use of powers can be really effective. Like, you always don't need, like, city-destroying blasts and insane powers to really affect something. You could just have, like, a minor power or a relatively minor power and just use it really effectively. And you can make a big difference, good or bad. So I really praise the episode for this. The whole Loki posing as Fury scene and fighting Ant-Man was very cool. I really like that. It was well done how they did that. And I especially loved Loki's speech at the end. Fucking loved it. This episode was really cool. Episode 4. What if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands? This was by far my favorite episode. This was not Coke. This was not Pepsi. This was Sprite. This was Kool-Aid. This is all sorts of different flavors other than the same MCU sameness that the other episodes have. I did find it was kind of lame that it's another what you do for love story. Like, I've been over that for quite a long time. I understand not everyone is, but this revolves around love. Like, I don't know, man. It just seems kind of lame. What made this for me was that even though I didn't really like that it's all about love, the fact that love drove Doctor Strange to absorb demons for centuries, that was insane. The inner power scaler in me was very happy about this whole scene because I really wanted to see how strong he would be after absorbing demons for centuries. So I love this whole scene. I love the monster designs. I love the animation style, how they cut to different scenes. And showed Doctor Strange in different forms. Like, this whole scene, this whole episode is fucking great. It's also really cool that he fought and absorbed himself. When I was watching this fight, I didn't know who was going to win. But even though I thought power-wise, Dark Doctor Strange would have the advantage because he has all those demons inside him, the light Doctor Strange was still kind of like the main character and had plot armor. And I'm so glad to see that the writers of this show had the courage to just let the good guy lose. The whole absolute points in time seem contrived. They don't seem well thought out. When I think of the concepts of fate and destiny and causality, it seems if those cosmic forces were going to be concerned about human affairs, maybe in Doctor Strange's case, the defeat of Dormammu would have been what they were concerned about. Not so much X person has to suffer Y loss to become the new Sorcerer Supreme. It seems that maybe those cosmic forces would just care about Dormammu's defeat, period. Or if Stephen Strange didn't become Doctor Strange, then someone else would have. The fact that it all hinged on Christine's death, it just really seems arbitrary. It seems contrived. It seems unnecessary. I didn't really like how they did absolute points in this. This may be neither here nor there. While Dark Doctor Strange's universe was collapsing, I was really curious what the Celestials and Eternals were doing during this. Like, if there was a time for them to intervene in the affairs of man, I think that the collapse of the fucking universe would be the time, right? I mean, maybe that's just me. Maybe they're just chilling in the eternal void, but it seems like that would have been the time to actually get involved. Maybe that's just me. Episode 5, What If Zombies? And I won't lie, this episode was a fucking complete letdown, right? Like, here's my bias. I like horror in my zombie entertainment and not much else. I don't like zany, wacky, humorous takes. I get scared playing Project Zomboid to the point where I have to turn off the game. My mom let me watch Dawn of the Dead when I was 6 years old, so zombies and horror have been part of my life for quite a long time. I can see people liking this episode, but I didn't like it one fucking bit, man. It's especially that beginning part with Spider-Man in the rules. This whole episode gives me the feeling that the writers are trying to specifically appeal to like a younger crowd, or they were trying to be hip. It just came off as so cringe. Like, it was just so awful. And then there were people cracking jokes and one-liners over their friends dying. Like, I didn't like that at all. The zombie Thanos at the end was cool. I'm curious how Thanos got infected, because with or without the gauntlet, like, his durability should have protected him from most injuries, especially if he had the gauntlet with some of the stones. Like, what could have happened that he got infected? But it ended on a cool note, even if the episode is lame as fuck. Episode 6. What if Killmonger rescued Tony Stark? This is okay. Right? This is basically if Iron Man never got his hero arc, and Killmonger is on a quest to not only control Wakanda, but he also wants to take over the US military and everything that Iron Man owns. Again, I appreciate this episode for actually being a different flavor than the samey MCU, always happy ending, good guys always win. I appreciate them showcasing Killmonger as just a ruthless person who will stop at nothing to achieve the power he needs to actually fix the world's problem. There's actually some deeper commentary here if you actually want to look for it. But I appreciated this episode. It was alright. Episode 7. What if Thor were an only child? This episode is a complete waste of fucking time. Here's the whole episode. Thor goes to Earth to have a party. S.H.I.E.L.D. calls Captain Marvel to take him away because him and his guests are being rowdy. Thor and Captain Marvel get in a play fight, and Thor's mom comes to get him. Like, that's the whole fucking episode. This is not Coke versus Pepsi. This is fucking Coke and more Coke. Like, this is such a waste of an episode. All the different possibilities they could have explored, all the what ifs they could have brought to the table, and they bring what if Thor had a party on Earth. I'm not saying, and listen, I'm keeping in mind that not all the what if comic books are even like dark and serious and all that shit. Like, there are some truly like out there comical what if, but this was just such a waste of, it was just a waste. I just didn't like it at all, man. It really was just a waste of an episode. Episode 8. What if Ultron won? Alright, first thing I want to say is that this episode was overall pretty cool, but I do have some problems with it. Now, this problem doesn't apply to just What If or this episode by far, but let's just take a moment to talk about, like, fodder enemies, right? Hawkeye and Widow. Hawkeye and the Black Widow are just normal humans that have fighting spirit, and them being able to mount any kind of defense or offense against androids, it's bullshit. Especially these androids, because as we're going to get into later, these androids were made by an Ultron that's powered by the full range of Infinity Stones. So you're telling me that with all that power and all the intelligence Ultron should have, he can't make androids that are more capable than fucking stormtroopers? Like, oh my god. And the fact, these androids are basically, these infinity powered androids are taken out by a woman with a motorcycle, a handgun, and a dude with a bow and arrow. Like, give me a fucking break, man. So there's a point made to recover this artificial intelligence that is located in some forgotten Hydra bunker that's featured in a past Marvel movie, right? And it's Adam Zola. That means that Adam Zola is going to play an important plot point in the future. And just taking a wild guess, they're going to have some kind of AI versus AI fight. And at this point, the moment they arrived here, Adam Zola was still alive. The question I asked to myself is, how is this artificial intelligence that was made decades ago going to do anything against an artificial intelligence that's made by Tony Stark, right? That was strong enough to defeat the Avengers in his base form, and now that same artificial intelligence is bolstered by the cosmic power of the Infinity Stones. Like, that reminds, you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of that scene in Independence Day where they fly into this fucking alien ship and they hack it with a laptop. Like, I'm sorry, man. You're not going to fly into an alien ship and hack it with malware you found online. It's not going to happen. I don't think Adam Zola would do shit to Ultron in any way, shape, or form if the power scaling was on point in this series, but it's not. We're gonna get more into that though. The Captain Marvel versus Ultron fight was kind of cool. I just want to point out that Captain Marvel seemed pretty relative to Ultron, even though she lost. She put up a little bit of a fight. Like, she wasn't instantly taken out. Now you could say that Ultron was playing around with her. I don't know. It was all right. The Uatu versus Ultron fight was cool as hell. This dude was getting his dome punched with reality punches. It actually reminds me of the dub for Dragon Ball Z that aired during the 90s where the characters would be like, I'm going to blast you to the next dimension.
I guess you weren't so tough after all, were you? Now it's time to send you to the next dimension.
Well, in this fight scene, that actually happens, and it was just a spectacle to watch. Ultron using the Infinity Stones outside of his own universe could be either a nitpick or it could be a gaping plot hole. It really depends on how much of a nerd you are, right? Because it's been stated in the comics that the Infinity Stones don't work outside their own universe, but it's not clear if the Marvel Cinematic Universe is connected to the comic book universe. They should be. I mean, that seems to be what Marvel's heading for. We actually don't know. The problem here is, even in the cinematic universe, I do not think Kang, in his eternal quest to keep multiverse wars from spilling over, I don't think Kang would have dismissed them to trinkets if that was the case. Now, I'm going to put up a tweet here by the head writer of What If. She claims that this is not a plot hole because Ultron is technology powered by the Infinity Stones. Someone sneaking off with the Infinity Stones to do like snap level events and shit like that doesn't really matter if it's through the raw power of the stones or that power is diverted into technology that could do the same thing. The end result is a fucking multiverse mess, right? So if they could really do this, I don't think Kang would have regarded them as trinkets. I don't think he would have dismissed them to trinkets in the TVA if that was the case. And anyone concerned with multiverse conquering or multiverse meddling in any way, shape, or form, them knowing about Infinity Stones that can work outside their own universe, they would become a very high priority target. Now, if we want to get nerdy, and this whole episode's about being nerdy, and we want to try to power scale how far Ultron could have got. Now, I do give credit for Ultron being able to sense Uatu from his own universe, maybe even enter the in-between realm, but not anything after that. As Ultron is speedrunning all these locations and just devastating everybody, makes you think how much better they would have fared if they had random people with bows and arrows and handguns, right? And how Ego goes out here, it's a bit sad. Like, you can see his like frowny face happen. I think he should have put up more of a fight, but whatever. All in all, the Uatu vs. Ultron fight made up for the misgivings I had with this episode, but I feel their writing could have been a lot more solid. Episode 9, What If the Watcher Broke His Oath? A thing to keep in mind is that base Ultron, before the Infinity Stones, took down the Avengers.
Your worlds are either under attack or soon will be by Ultron. An artificial intelligence elevated to a cosmic being thanks to an enhanced synthetic body and the power of the Infinity Stone.
6 stones of near unfathomable power, each controlling an essential aspect of our existence. And Ultron holds all of them.
So Ultron has universal awareness, right? They said earlier in the episode that they don't know where in the multiverse Ultron is, but when Thor lets lightning out of his hammer, Ultron immediately shows up and starts talking shit. All right, so I did a little bit of homework. I looked up, the approximate size of the observable universe. Spoilers, it's fucking big. It's really big. So I want you to imagine how keen your awareness has to be that you could sense the entire universe. And not only that, you're able to locate a tiny lightning bolt out of the whole universe, right? If Uatu is allowed to freely pick his team from across the multiverse.
At first, I scoured eternity for one true hero. Then I saw the bigger picture. This mission requires a team, the perfect combination of skills and experience that alone will triumph.
How is this team just not all Doctor Strange's, Captain Marvel's, and Scarlet Witch's? It seems that Doctor Strange is the only one that's actually worth a damn in this fight, and Ultron even points that out. He says here,
You. It's you. If I destroy you, you all fall.
T'Challa stealing the Soul Gem from Infinity Ultron, kinda lame, right? Like, I understand that there is a lot of merchandising that goes on in the Marvel Universe, and they will be able to sell more toys if the story of the character is more obviously apparent on the character, like, hey, this is Infinity Ultron, he has the gems on his chest. But the writers kind of took that responsibility and just went in a really lame direction with it. Don't you think if the gems were able to be removed that easily, the Ultron and all his intelligence would have fucking did something to keep him more attached to his armor? Like, I don't know, super glue might work, duct tape, growing armor over it, using the power of the other 5 stones to get them back? I don't know. Like, there seems to be a lot of things Ultron or anyone could have done to keep the stones in his armor, right? I don't know. It just seems T'Challa just stealing the gems off of Ultron was a stretch. This Infinity Crusher, they might as well just call it the fucking MacGuffin. It might as well just be called the MacGuffin. So here they're encountering Black Widow of her native universe, and they all stop in tracks because she has a gun. They just got done putting up a fight with a being that could destroy at least galaxies, and they all stop in their tracks because someone has a gun pointing at them? Like, give me a break. Alright, so these scenes here, it's been demonstrated that Ultron has galaxy plus durability, right? If he can put out an attack that can destroy a galaxy, then it's reasonable to assume that he can also tank attacks of the same magnitude, right? Because think about it. If he puts out an attack that could destroy a galaxy or a planet or whatever, and he can't survive those same attacks, then he would essentially just destroy himself when he does those attacks, right? So keep in mind, as Ultron is getting knocked around by shields and punches and sword attacks, etc., that he should be able to tank attacks strong enough to destroy a galaxy. So him getting knocked around or affected by those attacks, total bullshit. So either way, through the power of the plot, they're able to shoot Infinity Ultron in the eye with this AI arrow. And this AI successfully manages to overwrite Ultron. Okay. Problem. This AI powered this Ultron, this version of Ultron, is a version of Ultron that's awareness ascended to the point that it could sense Uatu. That means the AI is much stronger than what Tony Stark could have ever dreamed of. But you're telling me that this Anim Zola that was made decades ago sitting in some bunker is strong enough to take down a cosmic level artificial intelligence? Get the fuck out of here. That's not going to happen. Overall, this show was okay, right? If you're not really a hardcore Marvel fan, I wouldn't say like this is worth a watch. But if you were going to watch it, I would say just watch the Doctor Strange episode. That's really the only episode that captured the whole what if.